Man, Holly Weird, it must suck for you guys when even Japan can make a better Godzilla movie than some of you really have nowadays.
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new epic movie review, and this epic movie review is going to be the very final movie review of 2023, and I wanted a new release to finish off a shitty year on a good note for the reviews, before I do the top 11s, and this is going to be for a Japan monster movie. It was one that people were telling me to see, and I did around a few weeks ago. The review is not just going to come till now, but this one took a little while because I was busy with Christmas stuff, but Christmas is now over. We're heading on to New Year's Eve, so let's have a good movie to end off 2023 because 2023 sucked for films. Let's end it on a good note. This review is going to be for none other than this month's Godzilla -1, done by the original creators of Godzilla, Toho. So how was the plot of this one? Well, basically, a soldier who felt as if he has unfairly cheated death too many times is also a surviving pilot and gets attacked on Odo Island along with many other warplane engineers by a gargantuan monster. And after the engineers die due to the soldier failing to distract the monster, an overwhelming amount of guilt weighs on him, especially after a homeless woman and a baby move into his home when he returns. Now, the man, on a personal mission, teams up with a large group of veterans to finally take down the monster we call Godzilla. How is this movie made? Well, after the release of Toho's 2016 reboot, Shin Godzilla, co-director Shinji stated at the American fan convention G-Fest that Toho would not be able to produce another Godzilla film until after 2020. It was due to their contract with Legendary Pictures for producing their own Godzilla films, and it forbade Toho from releasing their potential Godzilla films in the same year as Legendary's films. In 2018, Toho executive Keiji Oda revealed that Shin Godzilla would not receive a sequel and expressed interest in a potential shared universe Godzilla series akin to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then in 2019, following the release of a film called The Great War of Archimedes, filmmaker Takashi Yamazaki was appointed to make a new Godzilla film, and he began preparing a project and initially spent 1 year after developing the script. But then the COVID-19 pandemic forced the crew to postpone filming for a few years, and it led to the script being rewritten several times over the course of 3 years. During this time, producer Minami Ichikawa offered Rinosuke Kamiki and Minami Hanabe the leading roles of a married couple in the film prior to them similar roles in a drama series called Ranman. And another interesting thing, apparently, Godzilla -1 is Yamazaki's third time working on production utilizing Godzilla. The first time was in 2007 with a film called Always Sunset on 3rd Street. It featured the monster in a dreamlike opening. During pre-production in -1, he also apparently directed and created the effects for Shibuya Amusement Park's motion simulator, which was an attraction called Godzilla the Ride. It was a giant monster's ultimate battle from 2021. So, after Godzilla -1 was completed, and Godzilla -1 would later go on to premiere at Toho Building on October 18th, 2023, and was the movie that closed off the 36th Tokyo International Film Festival on November 1st. Toho then distributed theatrically in Japan on November 3rd, the same date as the first Godzilla film was released in 1954, to celebrate the franchise's 70th anniversary. The Toho subsidiary Toho International later released it in North America on December 1st. The film... on December 1st it got released to North America. At the box office, the film grossed about $71 million worldwide against an under $15 million budget. And the movie received critical acclaim. Western critics really praised its visual effects, the direction, the story, the characters, the score, and the social commentary, and they compared it favorably to recent Hollywood films. And in Japan, it's been nominated for numerous awards in the United States, like the 48th Hoshi Film Awards and the 78th Manchini Film Awards, which award won Best Visual Effects at the Chicago Film Critics Association Awards. And get this, guys. In January 2024, Japan is going to have a black and white version of the movie. Now, for my reaction to this movie, I never saw the trailers for this movie, but I had heard subscribers of mine talking about saying how this movie looked exciting for them, and then they all saw it, and they have said it was phenomenal. So I saw the movie many weeks ago when it came to my theater, and oh boy, this is easily my favorite movie of the year, and it's a perfect way to close off what was a shitty year for movies, with some exceptions. This film, and also, this was not the only Japan movie I saw this year. This and another film released around the same month called The Boy and the Heron by Hayao Miyazaki were easily both better movies than a lot of the trash Hollywood makes today. But on to this movie. This is exactly how a Godzilla film should be made, and it's even better done with only a $15 million budget than the Warner Bros. Monsterverse films. And as soon as the movie starts, you know what you're in for. From the opening to the ending, I was literally enthralled by the whole movie. It kept everything I loved about Godzilla. It was able to make an extremely interesting backstory with the human characters. There's a lot of things that are addressed in the movie that I definitely had not seen before. There were so many things that people will definitely pick apart, and that's upon reflection. Because pretty much the plot is simple. It's in 1945, and we're near the end of World War II. A kamikaze pilot feigned technical issues with his plane, and it lands on the Odo Island. And the lead mechanic implies that the guy fled from his duty. Then that night, a dinosaur creature like Godzilla attacks. And our lead protagonist, who is named Shikishima, gets in his plane and cannot bring himself to shoot the monster and gets knocked unconscious. Then he wakes up to learn that Chakibana is the only other survivor, and he blames Shikishima for failing to act. And when Godzilla appears and roars in his first scene, and the thing is, guys, during the first scene where Godzilla first appeared on screen and roared, I was just left speechless sitting in my theater seat at what I was witnessing. This Godzilla looked very realistic. And then, of course, a year after the beginning scene in 1946, Shikishima returns home and finds his parents were killed in the bombing in Tokyo, and plagued by survivor's guilt, he then works as a minesweeper and begins supporting this woman named Noriko Oishi, whose parents also died in the bombing, and an orphan baby Akiko, who Noriko rescued. Then later that year, Godzilla is back, and he's mutated and enlarged by the United States' nuclear test at Bikini Atoll. And the monster destroys several U.S. warships before it heads back to Japan. The U.S. also refuses help, and owes tensions with the Soviet Union, but General Douglas MacArthur sends decommissioned Imperial Japanese Navy vessels. And we know how the film goes from there. The prowess of the filmmakers extends beyond the technical realm, and the camera work elevates the narrative to new heights, from sweeping panoramic shots that would capture the colossal presence of Godzilla to intimate, emotionally charged scenes, and every moment is framed with precision and artistry. The storytelling Godzilla Minus One is a testament to the narrative expertise at play. The plot unfolds with this perfect balance of suspense, intrigue, and emotional resonance. And it also avoids cliches and predictability. It keeps the audience on the edge of their seats while delivering this narrative that feels fresh and engaging. And as for Godzilla himself, Godzilla, the king of the monsters himself, he is more terrifying in this movie than any other in the 69-year history and the longest-running franchise of the world. Every time he appears on screen in this movie, he really strikes fear into your very soul. He leaves you in awe at the same time as well. And his destruction and all of his destruction scenes are very unrelenting. The action is unbelievably out of this world, and his power godly. His portrayal is very real. And at times you almost feel sorry for Godzilla too, because of what happened to him wasn't really his fault. But I haven't, I've not seen a monster movie this well done in today's era since Peter Jackson's King Kong, sorry for those who hate that film, and 2008's Cloverfield, which, guys, is going to be one of the very first reviews next year. The story, the fact the story is set amongst the physical emotional wreckage of Japan around the end of World War II and just after, is very well done concept for a Godzilla movie. The realism gets blended very well with this fictitious monster, and for Japan, the war was definitely not over once Godzilla came. The unforgettable production utilizes some of the original Godzilla music. And yeah, guys, there's no English language in here. It's Japanese entirely with English subtitles. But I didn't care about that. I've watched a lot of foreign stuff with subtitles. The story is, and surprisingly for a Godzilla movie, this story is actually pretty pro-human. You see how people care for each other in the midst of the disaster. It's what really brought the emotions in me when I saw the film. There's no snarky, there's no edgy dialogue, there's no stupid Marvel jokes that ruin a lot of Hollywood scripts today. Like, come to think about it, like, there was like hardly a single humorous moment at all. There was moments of joy and camaraderie, but there was like no stupid one-liners that ruined the dramatic stuff. Like, no. This was played very seriously, and I really loved that. They actually made Godzilla serious threats. They did not make him a joke here, and they made the protagonists actually smart, not unlikable morons for a change. Because Japan is actually a no-nonsense country. They actually take cinema seriously. They are not woke. And I really like that. That they at least one country is still willing to respect cinema. This is like a story about grassroots, self-reliance, and cooperation. And some military men do assist them, and the Japanese even realize their government's not going to save them. The scientists of foreign military men have to come together, they borrow some military equipment, and they have to all form a plan to work together so they can defeat Godzilla. Like, it's not just a great kaiju film, it's a great film, period. Takashi's script and direction are simply flawless. The characters are well developed, and hopefully, easily you'll definitely find yourself emotionally attached to the human characters as I did. And the look and feel of a war-torn Japan was really spot on. It lends to the characters' development, and it forms the triggering basis for what each of the internal struggles really are. What really stands out with Godzilla -1 is the film's amazingly fleshed out characters and environment. There's very rare exceptions, like many Godzilla movies usually the human characters are just there out of obligation than any other reason. Really, and for the films I've seen, none of the human characters were really all that great in the Godzilla movies. They're just, the ones I've seen, none of the human characters have ever been memorable. With Godzilla -1, Takashi's characters were good and fleshed out, and I was invested to the point I almost forgot it's a Godzilla movie. The characters of Kochi and Akiko make for this engaging family who we really grow to care about, especially when they're broken people who are invadingly come together without even realizing it to form themselves into a whole. Arino Kamiki even gives a great performance as Koichi, and his bar-breakingly raw performance of this man who struggles with PTSD and survivor's guilt is beautifully realized, and it gives a solid arc that pays off in a satisfying way. The movie even features also another great supporting cast, like Koichi's shipmates, who are definitely memorable and engaging in their own right. There's a tiny bit of humor when it's needed, and it's not overforced, and it's not every single scene in the movie. They provide some good moments. There's some good moments of humor and humanity, and it keeps the film from becoming overwrought. But just because the movie features a lot of character and emotion, it doesn't forget it's still a Godzilla or kaiju movie. And Yamazaki certainly delivers that in front, giving us the most gritty, intense, and oftentimes scary version of this monster one can recall of recent memory, especially for those who are familiar with the 1954 original. Yamazaki films Godzilla -1 very much like a war movie. The action rarely leaves the level of the human characters and helps to drive home how imposing and powerful of a force the Godzilla is in this movie. In many ways, the filmmaking really does remind the viewer of some benchmarks of the war genre that have been recently filmed, like 1917 and Dunkirk, with how intense and thrilling the action scenes really are. And Godzilla himself really looks fantastic, and he's really terrifying in so many scenes with this great introductory scene that gets dwarfed by a later scene where he chases a wooden minesweeper. And the fact that this movie is only made for $15 to $20 million is insane, because this movie literally looks better than a majority of the Godzilla films from Warner Brothers that have like over hundreds of millions of dollars in the budget. This movie was only made for $15 million, and this Godzilla looks phenomenal with only $15 million. And almost like barely that big money. Like it really feels like you're still watching a big budgeted film. Godzilla looks very realistic. He's not even like goofily CGI. Like he looks very practically well done. He's even giant. He's even as terrifying as Godzilla should be. The thing is though, with the smaller budget, Toho decided to create a new, better formula. It's not just a great monster movie. It's a great film in cinema. You get all the emotional territory, the survivor's guilt, the PTSD, the redemption. It's a very hard tearjerker, but it's not over preachy. Like a lot of franchise finales are today with their tearjerker moments. Like a Godzilla film definitely could wring tears out of anyone is basically this one. If you're looking for an emotional Godzilla movie. And the narrative unfolds flawlessly. Like each scene meticulously crafts this convoy, the depth and complexity of the story. It's a film that doesn't just tell a story, it immerses you in its world and makes you feel every moment of tension, every heart-wrenching decision. The actors bring this world to life with their performances, and nothing sort of mesmerizing, and the portrayal of the characters has this layer of authenticity and emotion that's often lacking in a lot of monster films today. And the special effects, the portrayal of Godzilla, they're all breathtaking, especially because like this is only $15 million, and the effects look very breathtaking for that kind of budget. The use of Godzilla's atomic breath is not just a visual spectacle, but it's an integral part of the story, symbolizing both destruction and rebirth. And the cinematography was another area where the movie shined, especially in the grandeur of Godzilla and the intimate human moments of equal skill. The -1 Godzilla is majestic, it's cinematically spectacular and utterly terrifying. It's fully manifested as vengeful demon god. And of course, like, the reason a roar never fails to communicate tremendous pain, authentic pathos, and all that, like, easily. Like, this movie gets right when most Godzilla movies do not. Loads of them. Like, you get human characters that you could root for, make relatable decisions, and carry for the cast, like, really puts me on the ground level with them, makes you feel like you're in their situation, and you're hoping that they'll actually win, and you get excited when there's just this glimpse of hope, and you're devastated when a plan may seem to fail. Like, it's something the Warner Brothers films kind of get really wrong, are the human characters. Like, name one human character of the Warner Brothers Godzilla movies, Godzilla 2014, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong. Name one human character that was actually done right. Name one that was even remote, that you were able to remotely connect to. None of them. None. Godzilla King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong are really the only Warner Brothers verse films I liked. Godzilla 2014, no one was really memorable, and to be honest, guys, Godzilla 2014 I think is just really boring and slow. King of the Monsters seems to get it done better, but even that didn't have many memorable human characters. And I like Vera Farmiga as an actress, but her character in King of the Monsters was really stupid. Like, made really dumb decisions. And Godzilla vs. Kong, was there really a clear human lead you were supposed to follow? Because they weren't specific about it. But back to Godzilla -1. Godzilla -1 really got the human characters right. And they're the kind you should focus on in a Godzilla movie. The human drama is not too shallow in here. The characters actually deal with the fallout of World War II, and they barely managed to make ends meet doing it, but they managed to do it together. And like the finale of this movie, the finale was epic in the theaters. Like, the finale goes is that the Type 4 Chi-2 medium tanks engage Godzilla in the final battle, but Godzilla fires its heat ray and causes a nuclear explosion that obliterates Ginza and kills tens of thousands of people. Then Noriko pushes Shikishima into an alley, but he gets caught in the blast herself and gets presumed dead. And now he's devastated by the loss of Noriko, and he decides to vow revenge against Godzilla. Godzilla departs, but we know he's going to return, and the government is not going to do any more to prevent another attack. So one of the Minesweeper's crew, which is naval engineer Kenji Noda, decides to destroy Godzilla by surrounding it with Freno tanks and rupturing them. And it lowers the water's buoyancy and sinks to a depth of 1,500 meters, and lets the resultant pressure crush it. But then they're wondering if the plant does fail, then balloons could be inflated under Godzilla to force it back up to the surface and kill it through explosive decompression. Then he recruits a lot of private citizens, former naval members, to enact his plan. Shikishima recruits Takibana, the mechanic that he fought alongside earlier in the movie, and they repair this broken down fighter plane. Then Shikishima plans to fly into Godzilla's mouth and even detonate an explosive charge inside the plane in an attempt to destroy the monster from the inside, and then leaves Akiko in the care of his neighbor Sumisko. So during the final battle in the ocean, Godzilla resurfaces, and Shikishima decides to draw it into the trap. Then after Godzilla gets tricked into destroying 2 unnamed destroyers with its heat ray, the 2 remaining ships get close and they wrap it in the bios. Godzilla then successfully gets dragged down to 1,500 meters, but it doesn't kill him. He survives, he comes back up, the balloons get activated, and it forces Godzilla up to 800 meters. But that plan fails, Godzilla survives, and he manages to break free. So the 2 ships try to haul Godzilla to the surface, but they all fails. Then a fleet of tugboats lend their assistance, and Godzilla is brought to the surface. Still alive and furiously enraged, Godzilla decides to destroy all the ships with its heat ray. Then Shikishima flies the explosive plane to Godzilla's mouth, and it seems like it's going to be a suicide mission at first, but he remembers Takibana imploring him to use the ejection seat to let go of his survivor's guilt. He finally lets go of his survivor's guilt, and he decides to actually live out the rest of his life. So at first, it seems like, though, he actually did die in the plane because the plane explodes and it destroys Godzilla's head and causes the energy of its heat ray to tear its body apart. And you actually see Shikishima on the ejector seat on a parachute in the most exciting reveal that the lead did not die. You actually think the lead did die, but then you see him on the ejector seat and you are excited and you're relieved. And you're really hoping this plan will work. And it successfully works, and you get so excited that it worked. And it destroyed Godzilla. Then the crew celebrates, and Shikishima parachutes down because he chose to live. And he just decided not to commit suicide. And then after that, he receives his telegram, and he heads to the hospital with Akiko. And they get reunited with Noriko, who survived the destruction, but he has a black mark creeping up her neck, and it's a beautiful moment right there. The 3 reunite. And it could have never been more satisfying. It could never have brought an emotional smile to my face. Like, I really love that scene where they reunite right here. And then he just breaks down crying. It's a wonderful performance from this actor right here. Like, I really felt the emotion in the theater that the characters were feeling. There, it really does. It's easily a best scene to end it. Like, I wouldn't mind if that was just the last shot of the movie. But sadly, though, a chunk of Godzilla's skull sinks into the ocean and it begins to glow and morph. Like, they could have not picked a more epic way to end this movie. Shikishima, literally chose to keep living. He used the ejector seat he was instructed to use. When it seemed like it's going to end like the creator did, which I did and Silent Night did. I like the creator guys, but I didn't like that they just killed the lead at the end of Creator or Silent Night. Those were not needed. The lead hero here, no. He doesn't die. He actually, for once, survives. He actually gets that happy ending. He gets to reunite with his loved ones. And by pretending to have an attempted suicide to Godzilla's mouth to actually trick the monster and destroy it. And he escaped the plane before it could blow up. Then he got to reunite with his family, and they're now settled because Shikishima's war has now ended. Although it cuts to Godzilla's scales glowing and morphing. Like, that ending easily had me smiling wide, and I was very satisfied with how it paid off. Now, now we've covered through all the good qualities and the epic stuff. Would there be any bad qualities for Godzilla -1? Rarely, no. I don't think I had any problems with this movie. I had 0. This was one of the only film of 2023 I had 0 problems with. Like, it's rare to have 0 bad qualities with the film. Rare. Even some of the greatest masterpieces can have a flaw every once in a while. This is like one of those rare films that was especially of this era of all eras, that was flawless. Like, there were some good movies I saw this year that had flaws too. And ones I did start to find upon rewatch, like major example being John Wick 4, which you remember my original review for John Wick 4 and how I called it flawless and gave it a 10 out of 10 at the time. Well, after I rewatched it, I'd honestly give John Wick 4 a 9. And you're going to find out why in the Best of 2023 video that's coming this weekend. This is easily a film that deserves to be seen in a theater for many fans of Godzilla when they still can, and those who want to see cinema from a no-nonsense country that still actually cares about making good cinema, and they're the only country to not go into woke territory with their movies. And if you're getting fed up with Holly weird. In the end, guys, Godzilla Minus One is one of the greatest movies of this decade, no doubt, and it is worth seeing and buying for any fan of this creature and those who don't like the Legendary series and finally want to see a new Godzilla movie be good again, ever since those originals. And honestly, like, for a shitty year for movies, this was a great way to close it off. A very great review. Glad to have an epic movie review to close off a bad year for film. I hope this could come to Blu-ray in my area. If it came to theaters, I think it can, but when it does, I'm going to get this movie, and I'm going to rewatch this more than I've rewatched any of the Legendary stuff. Anyways, that's it for my review of Godzilla Minus One, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rate Godzilla Minus One, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you're a fan of Godzilla but were unhappy with the Legendary series, then don't worry, because this is a Godzilla movie done properly, and it's totally worth seeing and buying for anybody and any cinema goer in general. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rate Godzilla Minus One, I'm going to give Godzilla Minus One a full-on 10 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for Godzilla Minus One. And that wraps up all the movie reviews for 2023. So, I think in a few hours, you'll get to see tonight, you'll get to see the premiere for the worst of 2023, the top 11 worst of 2023, and then Saturday morning, you guys are going to see the premiere for the best movies of 2023 video. And then here are the reviews that are going to kick off 2024. I'm going to review. The first review of 2024 will be for another monster movie, and it's from, I'd say it's not directed by J.J. Abrams, it's produced by J.J. Abrams, but the real director of this movie was the same guy who later went on to do masterpieces like Dawn of the Apes, War for the Apes, the Batman 2022, the Let Me In remake. And this was the first movie that launched Matt Reeves into the spotlights. And it's one of those found footage movies, but it's a very unique found footage movie. And I'm going to show you the DVD cover for the movie I'm talking about that's going to kick off 2024's reviews. Or 2024's rewatches. Something has found us. Yes, guys. This is going to be the first review of 2024. Like, I didn't get to review this one I know this is technically a horror movie, but I just want to review this film anyway because, hey, there's still lots of horror movies I can review on Halloween. And I don't know why I'm talking about Halloween yet. Halloween's not for a long time. But, yeah, Cloverfield is going to be the first review for 2024. Because I think reviewing a monster film made me want to review that movie as well, since I mentioned it in this review. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this epic movie review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.